Hey guys and girls, it's I SYN3RGY here and welcome to a brand new tutorial for you. We are into a 2-week self-isolation lockdown, I'm afraid. So basically I've been told that I need to stay home, unfortunately. So I am here for you guys and girls. I hope you're all staying safe, keep your family safe, wash your hands, and yeah, just best of luck to everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started into this video. This is going to be a Jump Showdown tutorial. It's going to be quite a lengthy one, so it is 24 minutes long, because I wanted to give you as many examples as possible. Now you can see one of the first tactics, so this is going to be my first tip at the front. Always stay towards the front, because if you're in a large group like so, what will happen is if you are in the back row, if somebody messes up one of their jumps and gets hit by the beam, they can be slingshotted into that row and they can take out quite a lot of players through their mistake. Okay, so that is going to be the first part that we go through. Okay, the second part on Jump Showdown tip number 2 is basically to never stand still. The reason you don't want to stand still at all in Jump Showdown is basically because your jump, as in your spacebar or your A button, will actually get ate up. So you'll end up with like a glitch where you're unable to jump and therefore you cannot avoid the beam. Don't be afraid of going towards the edge. If you've got the room, etc., just be very careful not to hit your forward key, etc. Okay? One of the best ways of actually jumping over the beam is to go backwards and jump forwards. That will give you quite a bit of momentum, but at the same time you need to be careful on the speeds that you're going at as well. Now we're going into the next tip. The next tip is basically when you are jumping, the one thing you want to avoid, you can see I'm on a double platform at the minute, you want to avoid the crack right in between the middle of it. Because what that crack will do is that will either, if you land on it, that can have a possibility of actually knocking you over as well. Okay. The next part you want to look out for is you want to use your camera angles to put into different perspectives. So that way wherever you're stood, you've got a good view on the actual players that are there as well. So that way you can see which players are going for the more aggressive tactics and which players are going for the grabs, which you will see in demonstrations later in this video, so stick around. If you do like the video, guys and girls, don't forget to comment down below. Let me know what you think. If there's anything that you think I can change, obviously I'll work hard to improve all my content for you. So we're just down to me and the Sonic at the minute. We're just going to take our time with it, and we get a little bit lucky here. I actually mess up one of my jumps, but do not panic, you can always recover as long as it will let you stand up. And you can see I get the recovery there, and then the Sonic messes up after me as well. So sometimes Jump Showdown is about good fortune. Okay, so we're moving into the next Jump Showdown, which is a 10-man Jump Showdown. Okay, you can see I'm just taking my time while the beam is actually slow at the minute. Some of these clips have been mixed in to show you 2 different modes, just in case some modes come back as well. Some guys will like to spin around you as well, but you do want to be careful of where you're actually stood. So for example, the next tip that I can actually give you on Jump Showdown is when you are stood towards the outer edges and there's a lot of people in the lobby, what will actually happen is they will have the ability to grab you and you will actually get desynced off much easier when they do so. So people on the outside are more vulnerable to being grabbed. Okay, if you're on the inside, it's a shorter area. So what that basically means, even though the outside will fling you and you think that it's actually a bigger area, the inside is more effective, because if you get grabbed from the inside, the guy on the outside is going to end up falling first 90% of the time. You will get the odd 10% where it works the opposite way around. Okay. Now the next part you want to be very careful of is basically keeping eyes on the big beam at the top. What you can actually do in order to time your jumps is you can use the shadow of the big beam in accordance to the actual lower beam. Okay, so you can see the shadow there. As soon as we see that shadow, we get under that beam as fast as possible. Okay, Now the next part that I'm actually going to tell you guys and girls is basically what you can actually do on these as well is you can time your jumps. That way you can time it in accordance to the speed of the smaller beam, as in the bottom beam. Okay, so bottom beam, for example, say if I start counting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pre-jump, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and basically as I'm counting what I'm actually looking for is I'm looking for the top beam, so when I'm going to have to move backwards on myself and then use the W key, because I am on mouse and keyboard. Obviously if it's on controller it will be a little bit different, guys and girls. Use the W key to propel myself forward and over the beam as well. So what you want to do when you are going backwards is you do want to use the jump earlier rather than later. That way you can guarantee clearing the beam. Now you can see at the moment it's just a head-to-head. We've each got a platform each. You could go for the risky play and basically jump over to the other platform and grab him, but when the beam is this fast, you do not want to risk that because 90% of the time you may fall over in your jump animation. So that is something I'd strongly do not recommend for you. Just wait for them to make a mistake, like so. You will find that most players will make the mistake, and it's just a matter of time. So we've actually kept the full demonstrations in for you guys. I'm just going to stand still here. Sometimes what you actually want to do is you want to make yourself appear as a weaker player, and that way people, yes, they are going to target you, but they're not going to expect you to target them. So when you do go on the aggressive, like so for example, you can give them sort of like a pre-warning that you mean business. Okay, so one of the things that a lot of good players won't do is they won't mess with the one person who is grabbing actually everybody. Okay, some players will mess with them and they will just go for a full-on grab, not care about the wins if they've got quite a high crown count. Like for example myself, I could literally afford to grab any one of these and not even care, for example. So if you get a personal vendetta, why the hell not? Just do it, you know what I mean? Okay. Right, so again, you can see in this example, I am using the inside, but I'm going for some more aggressive plays where I'm actually going for the grabs at the moment. The reason I'm grabbing that particular dinosaur is because this dinosaur in the previous rounds has grabbed me every single time. So I don't want to give him any leeway and any breathing space as well. When you are grabbing players, what you do want to do is you want to grab them as the beam is coming towards them. But what you don't want to do is you do not want to hold your grab for too long. You can hold it for about a second, but if you can actually shorten it down from a second, that will be more effective. Okay. Now what this grab animation will do is it'll actually stop the jump for a certain amount of time. So 9 times out of 10 you'll be able to get the grief off as soon as the beam is fast enough. So if the beam is fast enough, you go for a short jump, it's going to put them off the jumps, etc., and sort of coax them into making a mistake. Okay. So again, you can see what the chicken just did. The chicken actually landed into me as well. So things like that can knock you over, which is where the spinning animation comes into play. As you are spinning and somebody jumps into you, chances are they're going to get knocked over before you get knocked over because you have more mobility, you have more control over your character. If you are just running regularly and you are jumping as normal, what will basically happen is they can have the opportunity to take out your feet. You can see that the Sonic just got knocked down and he was very close to my feet, so he could have actually taken me out as well there. But I'm trying to avoid that middle crack at all times. Using the middle is a very effective tactic. Now, What I actually like to do is I do like to use the inside edge, because people are very much scared of the inside edge. They're scared of falling off, they're scared of challenging anyone on the inside edge. And that is one of the pro tips that you can actually get as well. You can see I come dangerously close to hitting the crack there, and if I did hit the crack, there's a chance that my character could fall over, and that could be me gone. Okay. As the beam gets faster, the most important rule of thumb is not to panic, stay calm, control your breathing. Okay, breathing is a very important thing in Jump Showdown. Now, the reason breathing is very important is because when you don't breathe and you hold your breath because you're in an intense mode, etc., your hands start shaking, you start getting sweat, etc., and you're more likely to make mistakes that way. It's just stay calm, be positive, have fun. At the end of the day, it's all about fun. Sometimes you will get very close encounters where the beams are lining up literally together and you have to make those small jumps. When you do have to make those small jumps, you can literally just jump as though you're going into the beam. Okay. So we're about halfway through this video, guys and girls. Careful, dude. This time, we're actually going into a live commentary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you listen in on a live gameplay. You need to stop diving forward. This will hopefully teach you of sort of like the intense moments and how calm that you manage to actually stay as well. You can hear my keyboard ASMR sounds there. It's tough times for everyone, guys and girls. I'm not actually grabbing these intentionally. So hopefully everybody out there is staying safe. I try to improve my content every day. I'm gonna go further back. We don't use ads in our videos or anything like that. It is completely free. Stick on the inside. This guy to move. I think he might be too close to me here. Now that guy griefed. Well, he didn't. Bad time to get an itch on your nose, eh? Actually grief, but he messed up, therefore he didn't get the chance to grief, but he was definitely going for that. You do want to keep eyes on other players' movements. What the tip I can give you next is basically hand animations. By hand animations, keep eyes on any players that are holding their hands out, and that is the player you want to primarily focus on. If they don't want to land on these cracks. If they're in a team, that can actually mess you up a little bit. Okay, so we're down to me and the ninja. Oh, and we've also got the assassin. Again, I'm using the inside path, so it's more likely for them to attack each other rather than attack me first. Because it's a much harder grab for players when you are on the inside. Now if you look at the ninja's actual movement, he is moving slightly towards the other player, so it does look like he is going in for a grab animation very shortly. We'll see what happens here. I actually can't remember this one myself. He just messed up. Sometimes when you do go in for grab animations like so, what can actually happen is you can lose your focus, and that way you end up getting hit by the beam. You can see me commentating just there. Play fair game, dude. So this means sometimes what I'll do is I won't actually touch the other player. I'll just keep a very close eye on them. I'll let them and allow them to go for the timeout with me. So I won't actually grief them intentionally, because that is what pro players will do. Pro players also, basically they'll say that griefing and being more aggressive is the better option, but you've got to remember, boom, every time you make a grab, you also make that choice to go for the coin flip towards the end. By coin flip, that means it's a 50-50 chance, dependent on the animation of where you get flown. Sometimes if you have a weaker connection, etc. and stuff like that, you'll actually be lagging, but that can actually give you an advantage when you get flown off, because basically you lag behind. Got a little bit of the sniffles. Now what the next tip that I can actually give you on this one, guys and girls, is basically, you can see that I am hanging out towards the front edge. Yes, I'm giving someone an opportunity to try and push me off, etc. But usually nobody will have the guts to make that play. So you should be safe most of the time, unless you get a very good experienced player who will basically go in for that grab and time it absolutely perfectly. Now I am staying towards the front. I'm going to use all the tight little jumps that people don't want to take the risk onto. By using the tight little jumps, a lot of players will not follow your movement because of that. They'll actually go for the easier jumps to make sure that they stay on the platform. Do not be afraid of tight jumps. You can make a small little jump and you can make it through any sort of gap. The only time you can't make it through the gap is when the beams perfectly align. So do not be afraid of taking that risk. Okay, so this is the part where basically what you want to do is you want to wait for the herd to thin down. So you want to wait for a few more players to get knocked out before you make any more aggressive moves. So we got 2 eliminated out of the 8 at the minute. We got the bullet behind us, so we're keeping a close eye on them. Just watching the animations. Keeping an eye out on if any players are using any hand animations and they are panicking. What you will find is when the player starts to struggle with the jumps, they'll start to panic and they'll start to what you call panic grab people, which will effectively, most of the time, knock them out in doing so. But most of the time as well, that can actually pay off for them if the other players are not paying attention to it. So just taking our time. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go into the next tip. So for example, when there's 2 of you, if he goes on the aggressive, what you actually want to do is you want to put as much distance as possible between you and him, even if it means moving to a separate platform, for example, like so. By moving to the separate platform, he would have to travel backwards in order to get to me. So if he does decide to go for a coin flip, obviously he's got to make that animation towards me. Chances are he's going to get hit first as he goes in for the grab animation. Synergy's tutorials, baby! Just watching, waiting, being very patient. And I'm making sure that I'm getting all my sync ups. Soon as that shadow comes towards me, I need to dart under the shadow as fast as possible. And that way, I can get my jump off just in time for the beam coming round. And I almost mess up there. Sometimes you will mess up, it's just life. Just, the main thing is, if you do end up messing up, not to beat yourself up about it. Okay, so you can see, again, this is a highly effective tactic for you guys to use. When you do have, say, like 9 players, 10 players, 20 players, it doesn't matter how many players. Using the front and the inside will almost guarantee you survival rates, okay? So you can see again that I am using the inside and I'm using the front. So So all I'm being careful of is all the sync-ups. That's the only thing I need to worry about. The beam is quite slow at the minute, so nobody's actually going in for any grabs at the minute. But you can see that the Sonic does keep facing towards me. So the one that we need to watch out for is the one that is right next to me. Okay, he could technically go in for the grab. If he does go in for the grab, then I would go on the aggressive. What you want to do is you want to show people who's boss. So for example, if somebody starts grabbing you straight off the rip, like so, you can see with the Sonic just there. So what happened there is the Sonic went on the aggressive, just as I called it there. And he is going for the grabs on me. So I'm just being careful of him at the minute. I'm not giving him an easy opportunity. Now I'm actually spamming my jump buttons because a lot of players are beginning to target me at the minute. Now what you want to do is when people are grabbing you, this is your next tip, is to double tap your spacebar or your A button. In double tapping your spacebar or your A button, what it's going to do is it's going to jump up as you're being held back, but the double tap will actually release you as well. Now what I actually do decide to take there is I take the coin flip, because if I didn't take the coin flip, the pigeon was going to do exactly the same, and you do not want to give them the opportunity to do it first, because the coin flip will favour them if you let them do so most of the time. This part is an example of where we are stuck in the crowd, so you can see I actually move forward. All that crowd is all together, and a lot of them just flew off the map because that platform was going down and everybody was already over there. So what happens when you are caught in the crowd is the crowd will push you back and you will be stuck in the mud on that one platform. Okay, some people will make the mistakes as we get down to one platform. On this one's going to be an example of close quarters combat. So we're going to watch out for anybody going in for the grab animations. This is actually an ideal time for players to go for grabs. But what I do like to do, guys and girls, is I do like to play fair game. Now I will go on the aggressive, but only if I'm forced to go on the aggressive. I will allow people the opportunity to get their crowns without taking the crowns away from them, because I'm such a nice guy. Now the one that definitely knows what they're doing here is, if you look at Fall Guy 1647, which is the dinosaur. See how he's doing a spin animation? That's allowing him not to get knocked over if anybody bumps into him. So we know that he is decent. Okay, somebody does go in for the grab on him, almost messes him up. Now we need to keep eyes on that person. Now luckily, they're on the outside, we're on the inside, so we're a safe distance from them. And I believe they might have just messed up as well. Therefore they have been eliminated themselves. The dinosaur did mess up as well. I'm not sure if that was a double grab animation or not. Don't forget, guys, if you are new to the channel, to hit that like button, throw a comment in the comment section, give me a little love heart, show me some love for all this free content. Okay, so we're down to 3 players. These 3 players are playing fair game, so we're not going in for any aggressive moves at the moment. But we are keeping eyes on their hands. The reason you want to keep eyes on their hands is in case they use a grab animation in a panic. So for example, he could try to grab me right there. And that is the end, guys and girls. Thank you for watching. Peace.